What's up, Portland? John Taylor, founder of PortlandRealEstateExperts.com.
And I'm Christina Bullock, co-founder of PortlandRealEstateExperts.com.
And we are your host for the show that brings you interesting people talking about what makes them unique,
What makes Portland unique?
and why Portland is such a great place to live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the All Things Portland podcast. I'm your host, John Taylor, along with my lovely co-host, Christina Bullock. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great, thank you. Today we're going to talk about what everybody's talking about, and we're going to dabble in some COVID, and we're going to talk about some civil unrest in our city of Portland. Then we'll dive into the infamous Portland package with Eric here, and we'll finish it off with some real estate and how everything happening in our city, how it's affecting our inventory and our prices.
So we have an awesome guest today. His name is Eric Post, and he is a successful entrepreneur, restaurateur. He's a father of two. He was a Marine, business consultant, and most recently he is an activist for peace and unity in our beautiful city, or once beautiful city of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, for sure.
So Eric, I kind of feel like I've told your whole story here, but what would you like to
Oh, here we go.
Share with
listen,
us.
listen. You called me out. This is your show, but there's so many things I do want to talk about because I mean, honestly, there's so many things going on.
There's a lot going on,
and
for sure.
you know, there's all these individual stories of humanity that I think are cool for shows like you guys to really kind of bring the forefront. And you know, I'm just playing a little teeny part in that, but. Portland's been my focus here for the last few weeks, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Where do you want me to start? I mean, what's most interesting?
Well, just tell us what your mission is right now. Peace and unity is kind of what I've gathered, just the little bits in talking to you and social media. So,
I mean, like a lot of, I mean, hopefully, like everyone out there, you know, there's just been this pressure, this weight of everything that's going on, from violence to yelling to arguing. And, you know, on May 25th, when George Floyd was murdered, the entire country, you know, took a pause, and then chaos ensued. And, you know, I'll speed forward to a part where my daughter wanted to go to a peace rally. And it was a march out in Happy Valley. And I met Deshaun Hardy, who put it on there. He's an activist in the Black community. He's a pastor. He's just an awesome man. So grabbed my daughter's hand and we went, and you know, we marched and we heard these stories and had these conversations that were just really touching and moving, and we learned a lot. You know, I heard stories of this little girl from a mixed race family and the names that she'd been called, and you know, as I'm sitting there with my daughter, I'm like, man, as a dad, like that would get me going. So we had that experience, and then a few days later, after the riots were really kicking off, I started getting messages from kids, and what the messages that I was receiving was because they were children of police officers. These kids themselves, from 11 to 19, were receiving death threats.
Wow.
Being called the worst heinous of names, were saying, you know, you better lock your doors tonight, we're going to come burn it down with you inside. And these were from people they knew.
Wow, really?
We're good friends.
Yeah. That's what I'm having a hard time with these days.
So I was seeing these tragedies on kind of two ends of the spectrum. I'm like, man, the reason why these keep existing, these keeps perpetuating, because nobody's stopping yelling at each other and facing the actual problems. They're thinking each other is the problem.
You're fighting the issue with the same exact
and I would go downtown. In my eyes, I would talk to people downtown that were there for the good reasons, and then I would also stay back and I'd watch the violence that were people that weren't there for the right reasons.
Right.
And I just decided I wanted to do something about it. And so on the 4th of July, I woke up that morning, I grabbed the flag off my house, and I went down to the Elk in the middle of all that chaos.
I saw that.
I
saw that on Instagram.
That sucker.
Yeah, you did. It was pretty brave. So what happened when you what kind of
Well, I knew it was going to be met with resistance, and unfortunately, you know, when putting an American flag in an American city on Independence Day is dangerous and controversial, you know, it's a problem.
Right. That's huge.
Right. There's a broken system, right? So you know, of course, the flag got burned that night, Israel to the rights, and actually got burned within 15 minutes of me leaving. So the next day, instead of going down and planting another one, I went down there and collected the ashes and said, listen, let me be an example of how, instead of just having my opinion of the world is right and yours is wrong, maybe an example of like, hey, I can have my opinion and you can have yours too.
Right.
How do we coexist? Right. And how do we stop yelling at each other and start like having a conversation?
Absolutely.
So I gave that little speech there, and that went viral. And so I decided to have a rally a couple days later, and here we are.
Yeah. And so how did the rally go? I don't know Deshaun, but I saw that he was part of your rally.
He was,
And
absolutely.
So you guys kind of
Man, it was
working together, or
I've never had death threats before. All right. So imagine.
So you got them.
Oh,
and now you have.
Now you're on the list of death threats.
trying to put a peace rally on.
Yeah. You've got
When
death
you
threats.
receive death threats, right?
Yeah.
When everybody was invited. And I gave this analogy, like when I went to boot camp and how everybody showed up and you're all different, right? Completely different.
Right.
Socioeconomically, appearance, religion, beliefs, everything.
Yeah.
But the very first thing they do is they give you one uniform, right? All your clothes
Strip
get
away all
stripped
those
away.
differences.
Yeah,
Cut
I
your
never
hair
thought
all
about it
off.
that way, but you're all alike.
Same
you're all the
haircut.
same.
You become
Yep.
and here's why. It's not because you don't believe in what you believe, but you believe in them so much that in order for your beliefs to be part of America, that represents that your beliefs has to be heard too and fought for. And same with yours and yours and yours. So it was a unity. We're fighting for all of our beliefs, not just one set. And so I wanted to have this event that kind of represented that. So people from all ends of the spectrum, I said, please leave your banners at home, your flags, your shirts, come with an Oregon Peace shirt, come representing what you believe, but lead an example that you can hear from everybody else as well.
Listening.
Yeah, I've started talking too much, but I get
No.
No,
absolutely.
that's what I tell,
We-
that's what we tell children. Put your listening ears on. And I think adults
Yeah.
could use that same advice right now.
And I want to do it downtown on purpose.
Right.
I could have done it somewhere else and had 1,000 plus people, like, you know what I mean? Like it could have been a massive thing. But I want to prove a point that you could do something in downtown Portland and it could be done in such a way where it's not counter protested. And I'll explain that in a second.
Right.
And people from all ends of the spectrum are there for one thing, unified for one reason. And I did it at the waterfront, where it was like the grass and the water and some sunshine instead of just the chaos, to remind people how beautiful it could be.
Right.
Right. Again, so there's a lot of intentionality behind it.
I like that.
Yeah, and our city's so beautiful, and it's been torn up by this. So it's this is important that you're going down there and trying to spearhead this peace and unity, and then we all have to work together. So
Yeah.
how did your rally go? I wasn't able to make it down there. But
No, man,
so
it was-
tell us how that went.
You know, leading up to it, I'll be honest, I've actually never been scared in my entire life. Jumped out of airplanes, like never been scared before. But when the death threats started coming in, the violence, and I had some people running intel for me. When I started seeing what they were doing to prepare, and Antifa was bringing in people from Eugene and Salem and loading up and forming up to come, and it was pictures of me that were grotesque. And so it wasn't for me because I knew I'd be safe because I had security and all that, but it was the other people that were there.
I honestly feel like most people can't speak openly right now. And if you do, there's a good chance you're going to get shredded on social media. And I just want to know how are you handling those death threats? Are they continuing? Are they?
No, because what I was and what they pinned me to be were two totally completely things. Two
Right.
completely different things. And so instantly it was actually, and some Antifa showed up in the back to kind of scout me out. And one of them actually tweeted live that, hey, it's actually not that bad to listen to.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah. So
And so it was because I was so conscious about having the belief that an idea should be able to stand on its own. It doesn't have to stand in opposition of another belief. Right? And if it's good enough, then anybody that faces comes against yours, that's on them. Right? But I don't have to set up a business or an idea or a belief to on the predication that yours has to fail for mine to succeed.
absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And so everything I'm trying to position where it's like, it stands on its own thing. If you stand against it, that's on you, but I'm not standing against you.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was real successful. We had hundreds of people out there. We're streamed everywhere, news coverage about leading as an example. And I've been getting some really great messages that aren't death threats now.
Are you
So that's
doing another one soon? Is there?
I'm trying, yes, for
Yeah.
sure. But I'm trying to decide what's the next course of action. Is it leading a recall party against leaders that are allowing this to happen?
Right.
Right. Is it doing them in the different cities that are asking me now to come and bring this sort of thing to their cities or their jurisdictions?
Oh, really? So
Don't know yet, honestly.
you have had other cities ask you to?
Ton, yeah,
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 around Oregon so far.
Yeah, that's great.
And I got reached out to for some different organizations on both sides of the political spectrum, said, hey, if I could get leaders on the opposite side to sit down with me, would you help mediate?
Absolutely.
And I'm like,
yeah.
that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah, that's
Right?
the part that I've seen of you is that bringing the unity, bringing people together, but it's also in a way that my ears don't turn off when I'm listening to you speak. There's so people that are just pounding their ideas so hard that you're just immediately turned off. So I appreciate your approach
Well, it's
to
easy
all
to do,
of this.
right?
Yeah.
It's easy to galvanize people because it's easy to speak to people that believe like you.
Right. That's the easiest.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you don't get any friction.
Right.
Yeah.
And so everybody's just talking to just the people that believe like you. And so then no hearts and minds are being turned to solving problems. We're just siloing, right? And labeling, and all this divisiveness just really turns me off. So people mistake my patriotism as like I'm just pro-America, right? Because that's what everyone kind of talks about.
Right.
Like if I have the flag in front of my house, I look at America as this widely diverse, beautiful array of colorful people.
And that's what makes it America.
And that's what makes it America.
That's what we're trying to celebrate and bring back, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, we've definitely gotten away from that, where it's just...
And we got away because everyone wants to be right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but for patriotism, for me, means that if I want my country to succeed, knowing that's such a wide, diverse country, then I better also root for everybody else to succeed too, or else that's not patriotic in my world, right?
Absolutely.
So that's that kind of mantra. I'm like, yes, I'm patriotic, but let me define what that means.
Yeah, to you.
Patriotism means I want you to win just as I want me, and I'm going to fight for you to win just as much as I am for me.
And those rights that
and
come
those
along.
rights,
yeah,
absolutely.
to sit here and talk about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And be in a position to.
Yeah.
Do you have any?
I'm gonna drink this beer.
Let's drink. So what are, I know you're kind of trying to decide what the next steps are, but have you what are your thoughts? Like, have you thought about?
Politics are one of those things that have been interesting to me, but I've also always believed that I could do just as much, if not more, outside of a political position, because politics to me is actually ugly. It's very divisive, and there's really just a two-party system. To be fair, we don't have a lot of options in a lot of jurisdictions, and like many people out there, I don't fit in a box.
The lesser of two evils is essentially how you go to the voting poll.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Which one don't I like?
And what a tragedy that is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just really think that I'm balancing that. Like, can I navigate that world and stay true to who I am without having to bow out or sell out to anything?
So clearly you've been asked to step in to
plenty of
maybe
times.
some certain roles. I mean, you have a voice that I think carries across to many. So I can see that how that would be an obvious choice there. But it's just not where you find yourself.
I don't know.
This time.
I'm leaning more and more that way if it's necessary. Right? It's out of duty of service, not anything I would be seeking out.
There you have it, people. Eric Post for governor.
And with that being said, I hate to cut off this conversation because it's we could talk about this forever.
I know.
Absolutely.
But we're going to take a quick break here and listen to one of our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to dive into the infamous Portland package.
Right on.
Have you ever thought about flipping your own home?
Need to sell but cannot afford the repairs? We have the solution for you.
With our Flip Your Own Home program, we can help you maximize your full potential profit.
For a free, no obligation 15-minute consultation, call or text us today at 503-382-7798.
Welcome to another episode of the All Things Portland podcast. I'm your host, John Taylor, along with my lovely co-host, Christina Bullock. How are you today, Christina?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here today. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great, and I'm super excited. We have an amazing guest, Tony Iyke, and Tony is a titan of the Portland fashion industry, I like to call him, and he owns a fashion or a men's and women's and kids clothing store. He does some amazing custom clothing in Bridgeport Village, and we're super excited to have you here today. So
thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, maybe where you grew up and how you got to where you're at today?
So, that's a long one.
Where do you begin, right?
Where do I begin, right?
Yeah, you can tell us as much or as little as you want.
So, I'm Tony Iyke, as you already know. I've been in Portland for the past 15 years, and I love it out here. I've got a shop in Bridgeport Village called the House of Rose, or Designs by Thor. I love it. I love designing. I got into it as a kid. I wasn't planning on getting into it. I went to school to be an engineer, and but my mom, she
Didn't expect that.
I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So she designed clothes. She was always very fashionable. And she designed clothes, made clothes. When I was about 6 years old was the first time I remembered, chatting with her. And I wanted her to hem a pair of pants for me. She likes me wearing suits. For some reason, I don't know.
So your childhood photos, you look styling and everything.
I look styling, yeah.
Yeah, so this is just your life. It's not.
This is just me. It's,
Always been like this, yes.
Nothing else.
I woke up like this, literally.
Pretty much. I mean.
So, she's always done from, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna do one leg of the pants and you do the other one. And she's very meticulous. So she was there, she sat with me, and then she hemmed one full, trouser leg, and then she's like, okay, well, it's your turn. She handed me the needle. I threaded it because she taught me how to thread it, and then the hemming began. It's like, you gotta do it this way, and then you go, and you can't do it too much because it's gonna show up on the other side, so you have to gradually pick it. And her mode of teaching is anything that is worth doing well. There is no room for half-ass job, forgive the language.
Okay.
That's my grandma.
We're
Through and through. I got that.
We are an explicit podcast.
Okay, good. So if you're gonna get into it, go for it.
Right.
Do the best work in it. And if you're not satisfied, take it apart and do it again until you're completely satisfied with it. And it's not like, oh yeah, I tried my best. No, it's not. You don't try. You do it. And I think it took hours for that hemming the other part. And she was very patient about it, but then we just kept going and going and going. And then finally, now I hem my pants, right? So, and then it wasn't necessarily a joyful thing growing up, because then it became like, okay, well, this is fun. And now this is work because mom is making you do it.
Right.
She's taking you all over the place, shopping for fabrics. And then it's all about not just looking at the fabric, the colors, but touching it, the feel. What XYZ kind of fabric is supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
Even though they might say it is this, but it really isn't, because it feels different. It doesn't feel that way. You can see some stuff that is polyester and they say it's silk, but it's really not silk because it's polyester.
Got it.
When it feels silk, you will know.
You know the difference.
You know the difference. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like you see people with like Chrysler 300s, they mud it up and like, hey, it looks like a Bentley until a Bentley shows up. Right? Yeah.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
It looks like it, but not really until you feel the real thing. So I grew up in West Africa, Nigeria, to be exact, and southern part of Nigeria. People there are very hardworking people, very community based and all that. So when it comes to that, it was just very look we're all doing this. Family is very close.
Right.
I'm super close with my family. For me, family is everything, right? So that's kind of set me up for the life that I live right now, because with my kids and stuff, it's all about family. I'm very close with I have like 6 siblings.
Wow.
And we chat on a daily basis.
Nice.
I would say my parents have so much love. That's why there's a bunch of us.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm the oldest of my crew as well.
I'm the abused middle child.
Yeah, the middle one. Lucky. Nobody remembers you for the most part. Yeah.
You don't get a lot of pressure put on you
Exactly.
too, and then to take care of everybody else and be the example.
We can go into all the issues that created for me.
So it was beautiful. As a young boy growing up, you get to take care of the rest of the people, and you don't want to do that because obviously you're a child and you want to do your stuff. But as a firstborn in an African setting, there's so much pressure to be able to be good and to be, the best at this, because everybody else is looking at you, and if you fuck up, then they all fuck up. So you're not allowed to screw up.
No, you gotta. The pressure is on
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, But then, as I've gotten older, okay, well, that is actually a good stuff. It sets
to carry you with.
Exactly. So she made sure that I was I call it domesticated. You got to learn how to cook, to clean. Laundry.
That is a woman's dream right there.
Oh gosh, I hated it.
Your mom has got to teach them all.
Oh yeah, and I didn't like it one bit. I'm like, I can do it, but then it's like, okay, you have to.
Now, as an adult, do you appreciate?
I love it.
Are you single?
Yes, I am.
We have the husband material right here.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Even since I got into college, that was when I'm like, oh wow, all my friends are looking for a place to go eat or whatever. I can go to the market, buy food, and cook food. You know,
So he cooks, he cleans, and he can make you a beautiful gown.
and I can do that. Yes.
Say no more. And he walks around looking like a total stud. So
You should have warned me about it. Yeah.
no warnings here. Sorry.
So, but it was great. Growing up, it was a beautiful childhood. Even transitioning over here, we still kept that family bond, that family ties.
At what age did you come?
About 21.
And you came directly to Portland?
No, East Coast.
East Coast. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Toward the East Coast, I have uncles that live there, Michigan, New York, Chicago. I lived in Chicago for a couple of years before moving to Portland.
and what age did you make it to Portland?
I was about 24.
24.
Yeah, before 24. I turned 24.
And did you know then that you wanted to do clothes and all that? Were you still
No,
still
not at all.
engineering?
I was still engineering. Then
Yeah.
that was when I kind of dipped my foot into real estate, and was the mortgage boom in 2005.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, well, I got into processing, doing loans, working with a major bank at the time.
Okay.
And but I was kind of gradually transitioning, right? Okay, I came here. Engineering is good. I can always go back to doing it, but the money is kind of here right now. Let's see what's going on.
Right.
Let's chase this American dream for a little bit.
Yeah.
So moving out here, I didn't plan on moving. I came to visit some friends. And as soon as the airplane was getting into Portland, I looked down and saw like trees.
It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh, and I love snow. Believe it or not.
That's unique.
I do love snow. So I saw Mount Hood. I'm like, wow, look at all that snow, right? And then I looked and it was all trees. I'm like, this reminds me of back home.
Okay.
Nigeria is in the western part of Africa, which is very tropical, especially the southern part of it.
Right.
So it's like Hawaii. I always say it's just like Hawaii.
really?
Interesting.
The
Yeah.
same trees, the same climate, except we have snakes.
Yeah. I'll stick with Hawaii.
Bad snakes, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Bad snakes.
and the infrastructure is not as fun as Hawaii anyways, but the same thing is like the whole nature part of it, right? So
Yeah.
flying over, I was like, wow, I'm in love already. And then we touched down, get out of the airplane, the fresh air just hit you.
Right.
Like, I think I'm
It's a
going to be here
little
for a while.
different. You knew as
You
soon
knew
as you
right away.
stepped
As soon as I
off.
step off the plane, I'm like,
That's cool.
this is
I like
it.
that. You just knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Portland's pretty cool because you fly in over the mountains and the
Yeah.
river and, like you said, all the trees.
Yeah.
Maybe like
So-
7 layers of clouds.
I know,
You
right?
can't get it too
Yeah, you
pumped
know.
up, right?
At
We're
least
getting
it's not
busy out
smog.
here.
It's
I'm
good,
just
actually.
kidding.
It's through a cloud.
So,
No, it is. It's
you get some
stunning
fresh
to fly
air,
into.
Yeah.
It really is.
so.
It never gets old either, that view coming
So
in.
it was love at first sight.
It was love at first sight.
Yeah.
My friends that I came to visit then took me up to the mountain, and I said, yeah, Mount Hood, and then I learned how to snowboard. This was within the first week. And they're like, oh, it was like around like March, April, there was still some snow there. Okay, well, we'll just do like the little stuff. I got on some, like, okay, well, we're doing it. And they say skiing is for girls, snowboarding is for guys, so you choose, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm doing the guy stuff, right?
I'm not going to say which one I do now.
So they drove me up to the beach, and I was like, "Wow, this is
Just
it,
one
right?
other layer
This is one other
of-
layer
yeah.
of the beauty of Portland and Oregon, and it's just like we're smack in the middle. It's an hour and a half this way, snow, an hour and a half this way, ocean.
Right.
So I rolled up my pants, took my shoes off, ran into the water, and
Run
ran
right back out.
They were all standing
I
over
was
there.
like, what were
They
you
were there
thinking?
laughing the whole time. I'm like, you guys should have warned me because, the tropics is a warm ocean, right?
Right.
Around the Atlantic.
That's
so,
amazing. You just.
Yeah. So ever since then, I just observed the beach here.
Nice.
Yeah. Dip a toe in every now and then, but no. Yeah. But yeah, that's my story how I came all the way living here now. After so many years, I'm still in love with this city. I mean, I don't think I'm going to move to anywhere else in the U.S., to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like I've traveled around,
Yeah.
and I feel like we have the
I
best
agree.
summers.
Yeah.
We
So-
have the,
Yeah. Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
we
Sorry.
have the best summers. The seasons for sure. The rain here is nothing. I mean, people complain about rain. I'm not gonna say wear nice shoes out,
Right. You can still.
and it's considered rain. I'm like, this is like a drizzle, but an annoying drizzle because it lasts so long. But still,
I always say showers with the chance of rain.
It is.
It's
It
just a
really
little
is.
drizzle.
I'm like in the tropics. It's a real
It's a real
heavy.
rain.
It's a real rain.
It's a real rain.
Like with the
yeah.
umbrella, it's like someone is beating drums on your head.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that is real rain.
That's music,
You
yeah.
get drenched in like 10 seconds walking out.
Yeah.
As opposed to here, nobody has an umbrella anyway. So
So I want to hear more about your store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you fall in love with Portland right out of the gate. You're an engineer when you start. You get into the mortgage business, and then you transition into some real estate, and
Correct.
from there, you all of a sudden you're one of the titans of the Portland fashion industry. And so, tell us about that. Like, tell us about your.
So a year after I moved to the States, I lost my mom.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
And it's really sad. A lot of people that know me don't even know that because I always still talk about her as in the present.
Yeah,
Right.
I felt that.
So that was really difficult. And she visited me a few months before that even happened. So that made it really, really tough. So as time went on, I didn't have any friends here. I didn't have any family. But design and clothing and stuff is what we did growing up. As much as that I didn't love it as a little kid, as I got older, I started enjoying it. You know,
Right.
she owned boutiques and stuff like that. So I kind of know the idea of what to look for, whether it be interior designing or just personal styling and stuff. So it's not that I just make clothes or design clothes, I style clothes too. You know, I can put the stuff based on colors and textures and all that.
Yeah.
So designing clothing was one of the things that we did day in, day out. She enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing it, you know, for the most part as I got older. And that drive, that hunger just kind of came back.
That was your connection to your
That's my
mom.
connection, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really put so much thought into it. I'm like, okay, well, I wanted to do this. I wanted to set up a boutique, you know, do clothes and stuff like that. I got some systems in place. This was back in 2007, 2008. And then the big recession hit.
Yeah, the world crashed.
The world crashed,
Yeah.
you know? And then that all went on the back burner,
Got it.
right? So 2008, 9, 10, by 2011, I was thinking about going to selling real estate. I don't consider myself a salesperson. In fact, I'm not a salesperson. I like to provide information. So I went into my interview with this company and I met with the principal broker and she was like, so in 5 years, what do you see yourself? You know, traditional interview question.
Right.
I'm like, I want to, in 5 years, when I made enough money to open up my own clothing line.
I don't want to be here at all.
You know, I know, but
It's a good thing to tell your potential employer.
I'm like, if I'm being honest, right?
Yes.
In 5 years, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to play an integral part of your business, but in the next 5 years, my plans are X, Y, Z. So this was 2011. Fast forward to 2016 when I got out of real estate. I never thought about this stuff. It was up until 2018 that I was thinking, okay, well, I remember that interview. It was exactly 5 years. So I started August 2011 and I left August 2016.
So here you are,
You
pivotal
hit
moment.
Your goal, yeah.
I actually did hit that goal. I mean, just saying that was is like, actually, that was, I never thought
said
about
it.
it until like 2 years
Right.
later after I left. I was like, wow, that is very interesting what you say and what actually happens, no matter the whole up and down that went on with the whole, you know, real estate stuff. But
Yeah.
still,
It's very powerful
it's
what we
very-
tell
it's
ourselves,
very
right?
powerful, yeah. So, but that was it. You know, while I was still doing real estate, I always made clothing on the side for some colleagues like Quinn, for example.
Yeah.
You know, like Joe, for example, I made the clothing for him as well, and I was still doing real estate at the time. So, but it was like gradually, it started like coming together. You know, my clients, when I help them buy or sell a house, they knew that I did clothing as well, just based on how I'm dressed and all that.
Right. It's a conversation starter.
And that basically started building up that clientele when I said real estate. So when I left, I started doing clothing full time. It wasn't easy. I wasn't going to do it for clients. They already all know me that I did
Right.
this as well. So yeah, so that's how the whole clothing thing started from inception, a few steps, tons of steps, ups
Right.
and downs to finally.
Yeah, it's never a straight line.
It was never a straight line.
No, it's not. So your clothing store is
the House of Rose,
And it's
Designs
in
by Thornton,
Bridgeport Village.
Bridgeport Village.
Yeah, in Tigard.
And I know you have leather goods there too, because
I
I'm
do.
constantly admiring those
I do have
on
leather
your
goods
social
there.
media.
Yes.
So, anything else that you feature you want to talk about before we take a break here?
There's a few accessories and stuff, but the website, if you get on the website, www.designsbythor.com, then you see a bunch of different stuff, like different bags for like business people or travel bags.
Super sharp looking bags, like beautiful
Yes,
bags.
yes. They have to
Yeah, I've
There's
been in the
stu-
store. Everything in there is amazing.
It's a
Absolutely.
statement, right?
They have to
I
be
think
good.
everything's a statement that you do. It's like, wow.
There's no sneaking around with my stuff.
No,
Yeah.
like it's on what you
Either
can
do it well
tell.
or don't
Either
do it
do it
at
or
all.
don't do
Like
it
that's
at
what
all,
his
yeah.
mom taught him. So.
I think it bleeds through everything.
Thank
So, yeah, I think we'll end on that here, and we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to jump into, after listening to our sponsor, of course, we're going to jump into the infamous Portland package and see what Tony has to say about that.
Have you ever thought about flipping your own home?
Need to sell but cannot afford the repairs? We have the solution for you.
With our Flip Your Own Home program, we can help you maximize your full potential profit.
For a free, no obligation 15-minute consultation, call or text us today at 503-382-7798.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the All Things Portland podcast. I'm your host, John Taylor, along with my lovely co-host, Christina Bullock. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
I'm excited to be here today on our show. We've got Portland author Nick Buccola, and he's here to talk to us about his book, The Fires Upon Us. And of course, we're going to go into the infamous Portland package, and he'll talk about his 3 favorite things to show people here in Portland. And last, we're going to go over whether we think it's a good time to sell in today's current real estate market.
So Nick is a writer, a lecturer, and a professor at Linfield University. And we're super excited to have him here today. So
Happy to be here.
welcome, Nick.
Yeah, happy to see both of you.
So,
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for joining us. So
Honored
tell
to
us
be
a
here.
little bit about your book and yeah.
Yeah.
Give us the lowdown.
Yeah. So The Fires Upon Us is about the sort of major hook for the book is a debate that happened 55 years ago between James Baldwin and William F. Buckley Jr. And for folks who those names aren't familiar, Baldwin was sort of the leading literary figure of the civil rights movement. He was Malcolm X called him the poet of the civil rights revolution.
Okay.
He wrote fiction, nonfiction about the experience of growing up in Harlem and witnessing. He called himself a witness of the civil rights revolution. And so he was in this debate with William F. Buckley Jr., who was one of the most famous conservative writers of the era. So they were in Cambridge, England, at the Cambridge Union, one of the world's oldest debating societies. And they were debating the motion before the House was the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro was the motion in 1965. And so Baldwin and Buckley were there on this international stage, the high tide of the civil rights movement.
2
to debate
very
that.
opposing views at the time, correct?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
You couldn't be further apart, or
Yeah, I mean,
Or-
Baldwin and Buckley, I mean, one of the things I found most fascinating about the story was that these 2 figures were from such dramatically different backgrounds. Baldwin was born in Harlem. He says the defining fact of his childhood was his parents had a hard time getting their children enough to eat, whereas Buckley was born the son of privilege, sort of immense.
silver spoon.
Yeah, he grew up on a 47-acre estate in Connecticut and had anything he could ever want. And so the 2 of them come from these very different backgrounds, and they had such different worldviews. They just thought about the world in very different ways. And so the 2 of them together on this stage talking about these questions of race in the American dream, it's just such an important moment historically. It has a lot of relevance for today.
Absolutely. So what was your inspiration to write this book?
You know, for me, it really started with Baldwin. I hadn't really read Baldwin very seriously until, probably about 8 or 9 years ago. When I actually read Baldwin in a serious way for the first time, I was really drawn in by his writing style. He wrote in every genre you can imagine. So he was a great novelist, playwright, essayist, journalist, and he was really good at sort of trying to get his readers to imagine the world through the eyes of someone different from them. And so I found Baldwin's style to be extraordinarily compelling. And so he was my hook in. And then once I came across the BBC recording of the debate with Buckley, I was completely hooked. I mean, it was transfixed because, like I said, this moment of these two dramatically different characters, coming together to debate these issues that are so important was to me a really compelling story that I wanted to tell.
Absolutely. And I watched a little bit of the clip that you had sent and, 5-7 minutes, totally fascinated and super excited to watch more, read the book. So I totally get why you were drawn in.
Yeah.
To that. And,
and the debate itself is what constitutes, 2 chapters of this big book is, as folks can see who are watching the podcast, the video, it's a thick book. It's, it could be a doorstop or a weapon or, and the reason it's so long is because the night of the debate itself only is 2 chapters. The rest of the book is really about the 2 of them in the years leading up to the debate. So I really thought it was important for people to understand these 2 guys. It's not just about that night. It's about the lead up to that night. How did they experience the world? How did they understand the world?
Can you clarify whether rights were given at that time to vote, or had it just passed, not passed?
So yeah, that's a great question. So in the February 18th, 1965, when Baldwin and Buckley are debating in Cambridge, England, we're right in the midst of the Selma campaign and the Civil Rights Movement, which was a campaign that was really focused on voting rights. So we're in between the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and eventually the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And so you're really at this moment of this high tide of the civil rights movement. There's just so much that's been happening in the country that's been, central to this debate that Baldwin and Buckley are having. And so that same night there in Cambridge, England, having this debate, you have a protest in Marion, Alabama, where, folks are fighting for their voting rights. And that same night that they debate, Jimmy Lee Jackson is murdered by Alabama law enforcement. So it's sort of the juxtaposition of those 2 things, these 2 intellectuals arguing about it with what's happening across the ocean, really sort of captures what the book is about, combining both the sort of intellectual side, how people are thinking about these issues, with what's happening on the ground.
Yeah, actually on the streets.
So how long did it take you to write it?
I think, so the research for the book, I actually wrote an essay about the debate first. And then as I was working on the essay, I kept thinking, there's a book here. There's a book to write here. And so, going back to the research I did, probably 2 or 3 years of research between the essay and getting started with the book. And then I actually sat down to start writing the book in January 2016. And it's really hard for me to get a lot of writing done when I'm teaching. So I basically wrote during my January breaks and my summer breaks, and it was altogether about 12 months of writing. So it was actually handed in the final manuscript, I guess it was the spring of 2019. Yeah.
So I have a question. You're a professor at Linfield, now university. How long have you been there? So I think that's important to know. Obviously, it's a part of who you are.
Yeah.
This is what you do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Linfield since 2007. And one thing that I really always like to mention to people as I'm describing the book is that the book would not have been possible without my incredible colleagues and incredible librarians at Linfield who helped me dig up all this archival research. And my students, because at Linfield, we don't have graduate. I've never had a graduate student at Linfield. It's all, an undergraduate institution. And so my students were my collaborators every step of the way. So the first thing we needed to do, the debate happened 55 years ago. When I started, it was about 50 years ago. And so the students who hosted the debate, so the Cambridge Union is a student debating society. So 50 years later, a lot of those folks are still alive. So I had to track down, we called it Operation Finding Old British Dudes. We're going to sort of find the guys, the students who hosted the debate now in their 70s. So my students helped me do that. They helped me sort of formulate interview questions. So every step of the way, Linfield has been central to the experience of writing the book.
Very nice.
Nice.
I think it's a good time to mention that you just got put on a short list for books to read. Can you tell us how short that list is? And
what does
who
that
put
mean?
you on?
Yes.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So
how important is this book?
Well, that's for others to decide. But on Monday, I found out that the Fire is Upon Us is on the short list for the Museum of African American History Stone Book Award. So it's really, it's really an honor. It's one of these things that it's the kind of award that I'm especially proud to be among the 9 books that are now, being considered, because the award is really about not only the importance of African American history, but trying to make sure that we in the academy as professors and writers, we write books that are accessible to the public, that people actually might want to read. And so for me, prior to writing this book, most of my books were read by other professors. This book is meant for a general audience. It's meant for people who want to learn about this history. And we have extraordinarily compelling characters. The main characters are extraordinarily compelling, but also the supporting cast. You have the Kennedy brothers. You have Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. You have really these crucial, folks in our history. And so, I was really, really honored to be among the list of 9, and then they'll whittle that down a little bit more in August, and then in October they'll announce the winner. But I'm honored just to have made it this far.
And there was, I think I read somewhere, 54 nominations, I believe. So you got that first cut. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's
exciting.
Pretty incredible. So I think we're just about done here with our first segment. Where can people find your book?
You can find this book wherever fine books are sold. I encourage folks to check out independent bookstores. There's a lot of great independent bookstores here in Portland that are still, even if their doors aren't open, they're shipping books to folks. So it's available on audio if you like Audible. It's actually, the narrator is a Portlander, Prentice Onoyemi, who's a great audiobook narrator. He narrates the audiobook, so that's available as well. So it's coming out in paperback in a little over a month, but you can get it.
Do you have a favorite small bookstore that you
go
to here in Portland?
There's obviously Powell's. There's Broadway Books, right, not far from where we are right now. But there's all sorts of great. I would just encourage folks to support those local independent bookstores if they can. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a good suggestion there.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to take a quick break here and listen to our sponsor. And we come back, we're going to talk about the infamous Portland package and Nick's favorite 3 spots here in Portland.
Welcome back, everyone. And we are back with our guest, Nick, and we are going to talk about, is now a good time to buy or sell a home in the Portland market?
Before we do that, I'd like to share a little fun fact here. Nick and I are actually both California imports, but even further than that, we actually went to middle school and high school together. So
you guys go way back then.
We do.
We go way back. Yeah. So Christine and I were in a class. The class I remember we were in together was Applied Technology. I don't remember what I learned in that class.
No, wasn't it CAD or something? Was there a CAD happening in there?
I remember making race cars is one thing, and I think
you're not applying any of that today.
I'm not really.
Did we kind of goof around a lot in that class?
We did.
That's all it was.
I really liked that.
Sorry,
class.
whoever that teacher was. You did teach us something.
But no, I had a great group. I think you were in my little small group, and then Ashley Campbell I think was in the small group.
Oh, yeah,
so it was a good. I have fond memories of that class.
He was a smarty pants back in the day, and I'd like to call myself smart because I knew where to go to get a study partner here. So I remember
I was
picking your brain for that.
Did you sit next to him during tests?
Yeah, just a little lean over there. Yeah. Maybe he was the person to sit next to if you needed a little help on a test. Unbeknownst to him.
I was a late bloomer. I was good in like my areas, like history and civics were like kind of my areas, but yeah, that class was kind of not the hardest one for anybody.
No, you did what? I remember going to your house for something. You were helping me on some project.
Yes. So as a late bloomer, my major interest, my senior year in high school was how many Coors Lights I could drink. And so I remember
most everybody's senior project, right?
It wasn't mine in high school. I will say that I was kind of not fun in that area.
Well, so my brother was a year ahead of me at the same high school with Christina and I. And he was the one who was most infamous for throwing parties at my parents' house. And so I did decide during my senior year to try to throw a party. And I think it was a Super Bowl party. And it was a pretty daring party because my parents were at another Super Bowl party in town. And I thought we can have a party as long as we get everybody out, within 15 minutes at the end of the game. We can
get it all cleared
that
up.
Always goes well, right?
Yeah. It actually,
hide evidence.
Yeah. And it actually went really well. We got away with it. Sorry, Mom and Dad. But the highlight was that I invited Christina, and she came, and it was like Christina was not on the party scene.
No, I wasn't.
And so it was like a really great honor for us to have Christina.
I had no idea.
Who everyone loved Christina, and was so excited to see her at this party. And I think it it was a civilized party. We had a great time. Watched the game. Can't remember who played that year.
I can't either.
No crazy stories.
It was
for
kind
us.
of no crazy stories for me in high school. I actually had friends that just chose to stop telling me where to go because they're like, she's going to be a hard no.
Yeah.
What year was this?
That was 1997. We were class of 97. It's hard to believe
97.
because we're so youthful.
Yes,
What
you
were the
can't
hot
tell.
songs in '97? What were you guys listening to after the party?
God,
I don't remember.
That's a good question.
Do you remember anything?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
What did the cool kids in California listen to?
I remember a lot of Tupac during my senior year.
Of
That's
course.
what I remember for sure. But
Aaliyah, I remember listening to Aaliyah.
yeah,
Alanis Morissette in
Yeah.
high school too.
yeah.
I don't know what else. But definitely wasn't into reading books like your book here today. Back then.
I wasn't.
It's
Yeah,
an acquired taste.
yeah.
It's called growing up.
Let's chat about what we were going to chat about
Yes.
this section. That was enlightening and fun. So
Yeah, thank you.
We
California.
wanted to talk about, is now a good time to buy or sell a home in the Portland market? So, Christina, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great time. We're short on inventory, but the reason we're talking about this today is because Nick is considering selling his home right now. So it is very interesting to hear why someone would choose to sell now versus waiting. I know there's a lot of turmoil happening and a lot of wondering what's happening in not just our state and everywhere right now. So
Yeah.
So how come you think it's a good time?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm curious to get your expertise on this. My wife Emily is also in the real estate game, so I've got an in-house expert, but always interested to hear what people are thinking. But yeah, we have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and so every day they get a little bit bigger, and our house feels a little bit smaller. And so we have an old 1923 bungalow. It's beautiful. It's
Super cute.
it's
there.
a nice neighborhood, a block away from the elementary school and all that. But it's the upstairs is a converted attic, so it gets really hot up there, and it's also it's fine for the kids now, but as they get taller and taller, I'm thinking, man, their heads are going to start hitting the ceiling.
Start bumping the head there.
So we've been talking about it for a little while, and I think now we're just sort of wondering, with everything happening with the pandemic and the political, situation, we're just sort of wondering if we should sort of put our foot on the gas and actually put the house on the market sooner rather than later. And so, yeah, I'm curious to hear what the experts think.
Yeah, so I think now is a good time. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and but the nice thing is the market's hot right now. Houses are selling. Yeah. There's multiple offers in a lot of cases, and the reason is because interest rates are low, and at a historic low, under 3%, which is incredible. And there's not a lot of houses to choose from, so low interest rates, low inventory, and a lot of buyers. So it's a great time to sell. I've had buyers that are kind of, maybe we'll wait and see if the market's going to go down a little bit. But the problem with that is it's always going to come back up. It might have a little dip down eventually, but right now, if they wait and then they jump back in, I've had a buyer that tried to do that, and then they ended up paying $20,000 more than they would have a couple of months ago.
Right.
Yep.
And
same here.
if you wait, and maybe you'll get a good deal, maybe you won't. That's speculative. But if the interest rates are most likely could go up, and so you're going to lose some buying power. And so if you buy now, you have a great interest rate, under 3% for 30-year fixed. And unless you're planning on flipping the house or something, you can buy it next year in a dip. If you can time that perfectly, great. If you have that crystal ball, that's a lot of luck.
Right.
But if you're moving because you have a reason to get into a bigger house, you're going to get into something with a great interest rate. You're going to sell your house for a great price, and you're going to be in a house that you love, and you'll be in for the next 5 or 10 years or maybe forever. So, and historically, 5 or 10 years from now, it's going to go higher. So, now's a good time to buy for sure and sell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my take. What would anything to
No,
add
I
to that,
agree. Have seen people want to wait as soon as this started, and then prices have just continued to go up. We need more houses on the market, that's for sure. Right now, there's a lot of competition out there for buyers. But yeah, I say real estate is a long-term wealth game, and that's what I always tell everybody that I'm working with. Unless you're a flipper, like John mentioned, the idea is to hang on to the real estate for a while, and then it always ends up being in your favor. So ride out any low points that might arise. I mean, so far the housing industry is almost keeping us busy at this moment. There's just a lot of questions. And like you said, can't predict the future, but we know what's happening right now. And if you plan on keeping your house for a couple, 2, 3, 5 years, I think historically you're going to be just fine. So that is my short story on why now.
I agree. And I don't think there's going to be a huge crash, nothing like what we saw back in 2008 when the entire world crashed. And
that was an implosion as well.
That was a total implosion. So I don't think we'll have an implosion. But there might be a little dip, and it just depends on, the overall economy. Are people going to permanently lose their jobs? How many restaurants are going to be permanently shut down, and how that affects everything? And then what are lenders going to do based on that? Are they going to tighten up lending regulations or not? And so there's a lot of ifs. But historically, it's going to go up. So,
quick question: what neighborhood are you guys in again right now?
We are in sort of South Burlingame, Markham, kind of right around
Terwilliger.
Yeah, sort of on the other side of Barber from Multnomah Village.
Nice. Do you have an area that you're looking to go to?
It's because I work at Linfield and my commute is to McMinnville. We pretty much limit our searches in Portland, since we've been living in Portland, to Southwest, just because otherwise the commute becomes even more daunting.
Right.
So we sort of are thinking about just areas around Southwest. I don't know if you have any favorite neighborhoods in Southwest that are appealing or that you think are good spots.
I liked the Vista Hills area of Southwest Portland over there. You could sneeze and you'd be in Beaverton, but it was like along.
Right.
I feel like the neighborhood was really pretty, and but a lot of that Southwest area is like that. The 1950s homes and.
Yeah, there's a lot of great mid-century homes over there in that particular area. So a lot of it depends on what style of home you want,
right?
And do you want to be in a kind of a suburban neighborhood that's newer, or so there's a lot of that. But all of that Southwest is great, and especially for the commute you have.
Right. So that's where we're.
Are you trying to keep your kids in the same school district, or are you guys open to change?
That's it's sort of. I think we're more open to change now that that we know that they're going to be online for a while, and our little guys still pre-K. So I think we're open to change. I think we're not, because we just had 1 year at the current elementary school, which we love. We're open to moving someplace else. So
McMinnville's out of the question, or
I think so. We lived in McMinnville for a couple of years, and it's a great place to live. It's a great town. Then we moved down to Corvallis. Emily went back to school. She at Oregon State. So we were there for a couple of years, and then she got into a program up here at OHSU. She's also a registered dietitian, so she did that program. So once we were here, we lived in the South Waterfront, one of those, before we had kids, and one of those nice apartments, and then we've just kind of moved around Southwest since then, and then bought our house about 5 years ago. We love Portland. It'd be hard to leave Portland. As much into McMinnville. Is one of those things. It's 35 miles. Now that we have the bypass, makes the drive a little bit shorter. I have been a carpooler for many years. I don't know what carpool is going to look like on when in the era of pandemic,
right. Didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we're definitely. I mean, Emily's got doing great things here in Portland, so we definitely are feeling attached to Portland in a lot of different ways.
I think we were kind of prepared for these, your carpool growing up in Southern California. I think no matter what.
That's standard. Yeah, the traffic here is nothing compared to what you
it's a different kind of.
Or at least it's catching up, if anyone considers it bad nowadays. It's, we still got some ways to go that we can.
Yeah, but I do want to avoid, if I am going to be driving to McMinnville for, years to come, right? So I want to avoid having to drive through Portland on my commute back
I don't
home.
blame you.
All things to consider.
Favorite style of house that you like? Or?
I think that we're definitely fans of. We didn't think we'd end up with our home that we're in now was built in 1923, so we didn't think we'd end up in an older home. But I think that we like the older or newer. We're kind of I think we're there's sort of like a period of architecture that sort of has a certain floor plan that doesn't seem to use space particularly well, that we're trying to avoid. But we're just like looking for that house that uses space well. And I think we're pretty
You
flexible.
got the charm like out of your system, that
Yeah.
cute old charming
Absolutely.
house, and you're like, wait, this doesn't work as well
Yeah.
anymore.
So unfortunately, we are running towards the end of our time. I think we could spend another hour or two here with you. It's been amazing.
I
So
appreciate the chance to talk.
any parting shots you want to tell us about your book, and and where we, again, remind us where we can find you and your book. And
Yeah. Well, I'm really grateful for the chance to be here. I'm on Twitter. Buccola_Nick is my Twitter handle.
Can you spell that for anybody?
Oh, yes. Buccola
Underscore.
Nick. And yeah, I have a website, www.nicholasbuccola.com, if you want to see more content related to the book, videos of me talking about it, that sort of thing. That's all up at www.nicholasbuccola.com. Yeah, and check out Linfield. It's a great school.
You've got paperback coming out in a month, you said?
Paperback is available for pre-order now. It comes out September 1st. It's on Audible for about $7.
And Audible
Okay.
has the full debate.
The full debate, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. And read for you by a Portlander, Prentice Onayemi, who's a
even
wonderful.
better.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Nick. It's
Yeah.
so good to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, look how far we've come.
Look at us now.
Look at you now.
You're
Look
so
at you now.
smart.
All grown up.
Still, I'm
grown
still
up.
saying it. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening today. And you can reach us if you have any real estate questions at portlandrealestateexperts.com. Thank you so much.